Hey everybody, Roll SK here from Bitter Old Goons Gaming, and I'm joined with Richard MacInnis and Tanya MacInnis from Volocian Studios, and today we're going to unbox and take a look at their product, the Sync, which is an Android-based, I guess, game emulation system, home entertainment system.
It does new games too. We call it the Indi Game and Video Console.
The Indi Game and Video Console.
Yeah.
And in a world of RetroPie and other small gaming consoles, these guys are local to the Saskatoon area, and I'm very happy to have them here today. So
thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem. I'm going to start right now by opening the package. So this product I just recently purchased for 108 Canadian buckaroos. Comes with apparently 2 multi-joystick controllers, and we'll take those out and take a look at them in a minute. And here I believe we have the actual Sync itself. Let's set that aside.
Correct.
Oops. So let's get right into it. So what are the capabilities of this product?
Spec-wise?
Spec-wise, let's start with that. What's the hardware that runs it?
Okay, the hardware that runs it, it's based on a Rockchip 3229. It's got 2 gigs of RAM, 16 gigs of onboard storage. It's HDMI out, 1080p. It also has AV out. If you're using an older television set, you can get the 1/8 inch to RCA adapter to plug that in.
Really?
It's got Ethernet, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, all the standard fixings you'd expect in a general purpose computer. Our secret sauce is our software. We've set them up to be a super easy to use game and video console. If you want to watch videos, play classic games, play new games, it's all designed to be easy to use. It's more about what it does than what it is.
So you guys have custom designed an operating system for this.
That's correct.
You know, that meets the needs of your clientele.
Yep.
And I'm glad that you mentioned ease of use, because anybody who's familiar with Raspberry Pi and RetroPie systems, you need to have quite a bit of computer savvy and, you know, configuration savvy and tinkering to get those things sort of to run right. And that honestly turns a lot of people off when it comes to Raspberry Pi.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean, tinkerers want something that they can take apart and put together and do the OS install. And we've given tinkerers a great base to start with. It's pre-rooted. Everything that we use is open source, so you're free to modify it however you like. And meanwhile, it's got sane defaults, and that's basically the big difference. Rather than having to stick your OS on an SD card and set it up and get it running on a different machine or anything like that, this is all ready to go.
It's all ready to go.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, just again looking at the I/O on this, a couple of USB 2.0 ports.
Correct.
Micro SD card slot for, I would assume, additional software if you choose to add it, or movies and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And I gotta say, just taking a look at this, it's quite well laid out. Everything's very accessible. The case is nice and clean. And it's got a digital audio out, which is nice.
That's correct. I'm sorry I didn't mention that, but I actually haven't hooked it up yet myself.
Okay. So, you know, I mean, you'll get digital audio through the HDMI in any case. But,
that's what I use.
You know, if you're going to do AV and you want to have something extra for your home theater connection, you can have that.
We have a client next week that'll be testing that out for us, I think.
Yeah, that's correct.
And just take a look at the box. It's quite well laid out and packaged. And here we come with our typical, I'm assuming, 5-volt AC converter.
Yeah, 2 amps.
And that's important to note. 2 amps, you need sort of 2 amps minimum to run something like this. I know with Raspberry Pis, you know, if you just use a standard phone charger, it doesn't have enough chooch to keep that lightning bolt off the screen, if you're familiar with that.
Yeah, correct.
Got HDMI cable, HDMI 2.0.
Yes.
And a nice feature as well, an IR remote.
Yeah.
You know, it's interesting. Just taking a look at this, it's not apparent where the input is for that.
Right on the front.
You're kidding.
Yeah, I'm not kidding. It's yeah, no, correct. It's right on the front. There's a blue light that comes on when you plug your Sync in, and right next to the blue light is where the IR sensor is.
So this is somewhat translucent to receive that.
That's correct.
Oh, that's quite handy. So we've got Android TV box, which is, I think, what this is probably based upon.
That's exactly right.
But again, it's the custom operating system and software that makes it special.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a look at these controllers. These look like PlayStation clones.
That's exactly correct. Dual shock clones.
You know, these aren't bad.
They work decent. We tried out several different models of controllers. Setting up the, we set up the software to make it easy to use as far as, output, what displays on your HD TV. But the other side of that is setting up the inputs so that they work nicely for people. That's comes down to our hardware selection. Like I say, we've tried several different models before we settled on one that worked good. We're still trying to even out the kinks in our wireless controllers that we offer right now. We offer 2 different models because neither one of them is exactly perfect, but we'd like to liquidate those so that we can get some real good ones. And then we, of course, we write the key layout file for Android for all of our inputs, whether that's the IR remote or the game pads. We offer Air Mouse as an option because they're a little bit easier to use than the mouse mode on the IR remote, which just uses the D-pad to control a cursor. That's not the handiest thing in the world. So we offer an Air Mouse as well. We write the key layout file for all of the inputs so that it's right on the machine. The drivers are built in. You don't have to install anything to get that working, and OK always presses OK no matter which controller you're working, and back always presses back, and it doesn't matter what interface you're using, what apps you're running, or what games you're playing, everything is just the same.
It just works.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you, hand feel on this controller is just fine. It's comparable to any PS2 clone I've played with, and I'll tell you, it's actually quite a bit better hand feel than the controller that came prepackaged with the Retro Sigma engine, which was another sort of small Kickstarter project offering sort of retro gaming capabilities.
Yeah, I saw their project not too long ago here, and I really liked their advertising copy, but by the sound of it, they put more work into that than they did in the fit and finish of the product.
My overall impressions of the Retro Sigma engine is that it's not that great. It is just RetroPie, and the controller that came with it is actually garbage. This is perfectly serviceable.
Right on.
And it comes with 2 of these.
Yeah.
So if you have friends, you can play with them, which is great. So what drove you to pursue this project? Like RetroPie and retro gaming is very big right now. But it's quite a step to go from, boy, I like retro gaming, to developing and then marketing a product.
I've been working with open source since 1999, I think, is when I installed my first Linux distribution, and it would have been Mandrake. And I've been using Linux in-house for doing multimedia production in my work as a musician. I've always self-produced, and I use free and open source software wherever I can. So I've always had something like this working on my television, just as, if I ever wanted to play a game, there it was. Now, in October of this past year is when I decided to make this in particular. I saw the NES Classic in the London Drugs flyer, and I said, I wanted to get my daughter something for Christmas, and I said for $100 I could build something that would have thousands of games on it instead of 21, and it would probably be a better product. Anyway, so even then I wasn't planning on doing it as a product. I just wanted to make her something cool, and I put a message on Facebook saying, friends and family, I'm making one of these things. It's cheaper for me to buy the hardware in bulk. Who else wants one? And they've been hugely popular. Now this is my full-time gig, making video game consoles of all things.
Well, that's great to hear. And I saw the advertisement on Facebook, obviously, and I know you from the music scene here locally. And I was like, well, where'd this thing come from? Because it's, again, the advertisement for this looks very professional, and the product seems very compelling. And we'll get into the actual use of it here in a bit. So what are the challenges you've had to start building these, and what are your goals with it?
My goals is that I would like to see anybody who can't afford a mainstream console, but who would still like to be able to just turn on their system and play a game. We're talking specifically about people who are low income, or children, seniors, people with accessibility needs. I want to see everybody be able to access the same content that I can. I don't think that it should be a members-only club where you have to have a certain amount of smarts to be able to play all your favorite games, or that you have to have a certain amount of money to watch all your favorite movies.
No, that's a fairly noble pursuit, I suppose.
Thanks.
Now, in terms of the software itself, it's no surprise to anyone that it is not legal to preload game ROMs on these things and sell them.
That is correct.
So how do you get access to the games library?
We have a custom Kodi add-on. First of all, I should start from the beginning where what you'll see when you turn it on. When you turn on a Sync, it's based on Android and powered by Sync UI, which is our custom Kodi build. Now, we've changed the name of it to Sync UI rather than calling it Kodi for a couple of reasons. One, there's a trademark troll here in Canada, who I've actually personally spoken to before he became the troll. But he owns the name Kodi as a registered trademark, despite the fact that he has nothing to do with the project. So we can't call it that if we're going to sell it on Amazon. We can't say this is a Kodi box. But we do believe that we're taking Kodi back to its roots. As some people might know, Kodi was originally called XBMC, the Xbox Media Center. It was designed for launching games and playing movies and playing music and all on your Xbox. So it was basically like a custom menu for your Xbox so that you could launch games or any other type of media from the same place. Since then, it's become an app that just the intended use case is that you run it as a separate app. But we've taken it back to its roots. We boot straight into Kodi and we use it as the system launcher. We use Kodi as the Android launcher, essentially.
Okay.
And we call that whole thing Sync UI, and we use a custom Kodi add-on that we've obtained the source code to another add-on that was floating around. It's GPL licensed, and we've rebranded it the Indi Retro Games library.
The Volocian Sync automatically downloads databases of all the supported games from the internetarchive.org, including all the scraped information regarding the game, box art, and the works. It's really easy to use, and it just takes a few moments for it to update the list when you select that system. You were saying that this doesn't come with any ROMs.
Correct.
And, as mentioned, it's illegal to sell things with ROMs because
Yeah.
it's copyrighted material. So how does it get access to the game content?
Sync is just a general purpose media player that also happens to play a bunch of old formats of games. The older games come to us from the Internet Archive, which is a registered nonprofit library in the United States and Canada. And due to our copyright exemptions in Canada, we're allowed to download copies of any sort of artistic work that's covered by copyright, including ROMs. In the same way that you could go to the Saskatoon Public Library and take out a PlayStation disc, you can also use your Sync to go to the Internet Archive and download a PlayStation ROM.
So what this does is it allows you to just search through an index and then it'll download the ROM. Does the ROM stay on the device?
One ROM at a time will stay on the device by default.
Okay.
You can change that to save your ROMs, but I can't vouch for the legality of that, so I'm not necessarily going to tell you how to do it. But yeah, by default, it'll keep one game at a time. When you download another game, it gets rid of the original one, but it leaves behind all your save states. And by default, it's going to make its own save states every 10 seconds and then increment the save states so that you don't have to necessarily bring up the menu and manually go to a save state. If you open the multi-emulator menu, you'll see that there is a save state there, probably sometime within the last 10 seconds, with a screenshot to show you exactly where you are. But then, of course, you can make your own hard copy save states as well. And when you borrow that game from the Internet Archive, again, it will match that save state to the ROM based on the name and the checksum of the ROM, which will always be the same when it comes from the same place.
So you load up a game and it'll automatically load up the save state that's associated with it.
Yeah.
You change games, it'll do the same thing with what's going on there.
That's right. Pick up where you left off. You don't have to leave your machine on like you did with an NES.
No, great. Okay, so at this point we're going to go ahead and hook this thing up and check out the menu interface and see what it can do.
Have fun.
So the first thing we're going to check out here is the Atari 2600. One thing you're going to note is that there's a best of archive for all the game systems supported. And in this case, it takes a couple of minutes for it to download. the database of the games and scrape the information, but you can see it's got a solid list of games there to play, and we're going to check out some Joust. One of the nice features of this is that it downloads the art and the information about each game you check out, and as you can see, there's quite a big selection here. So we'll select Joust. And all the controls are pre-configured with the DualShock controller that comes with it. It's relatively easy. But once you select a game, then you get the scraped information like the box art and a little bit of history on the game, and it's nice to be able to display that. Once you hit launch, it goes ahead and it goes to the internetarchive.org and it downloads the ROM. Once it's done that, it'll launch the game. And it's kind of neat to see these old games displayed at 1080p, but it works just fine. And I'm dead already. Whereas the game works fine, it's not going to improve your skill at all. And it's fun to check out these old games, and the fact that they're all on there and easily accessible is one of the things I really love about this system. You don't have to deal with finding your own ROM packs, and that can be a real hassle when you're working with a Raspberry Pi or something of that nature, because there's so many different variations of ROMs. So if you've got a hankering to play some old Atari 2600, this will definitely do that for you. So let's check out a different game. So to exit the game once you've gone ahead and launched it, it's just like Raspberry Pi. Start select, then you can go to quit RetroArch, and from there we can pick a different game. In this case, we're going to try Spy Hunter, which was one I certainly played as a kid, and a lot of fond memories. So again, you get the box art, you get a little bit of a display of the game there. It automatically downloaded. And then it's going to launch. Ah, that classic Spy Hunter music. So, I mean, it's obviously authentic to the original, except for, of course, the resolution is not what we expect these days. But this is great nostalgia for those folks who have played this game, and it works fine with the prepackaged, pre-programmed DualShock controller. Though my skills are obviously not up to snuff on this. And it brings me back, because I died. Oh, that's right. Yeah, you can shoot in this. So obviously the Atari 2600 plays well. Let's check out something a little more modern. So we're checking out the Sega Master System's top 50, and you can see there's just a huge selection on the top 50 menu, and again you get the box art, which is great, and we'll find something on here that we like. R-Type is a favorite of mine. So again, you select the ROM, and it'll bring up box art, a little bit of FAQ for that game, and it's just as simple as going to launch. It'll automatically find the ROM from the internetarchive.org, install it, and get you playing right away. So once again, it automatically fits the screen and everything like that. And here we have classic R-Type on the Sega Master System, which of course is an arcade port. And, there's no perceivable input lag when playing these games that I notice. You might see a little bit of flickering, but that's really probably no different than the original system. And the fact that you can just easily access these games, select them and go, is what makes this system appealing. And I've died again. Again, there's no accounting for skill on this system. But it's easy enough to, again, start select. You can go ahead and change configurations if you like. You can resume, take a save state if you like, take screenshots, There's options for, filters and things like that if you like, optimizations and different chipsets for each game, making it, pretty customizable for what you want to do. But R-Type works fine. Again, no perceivable input lag. And again, the benefit of this system, I find, is just that you don't have to look for the ROMs and pre-install them. Now, here's one I really like. This thing allows you to play PlayStation 1 games, all from the Internet Archive.org. Word of warning, though, it does take quite a while for these to download. I believe for Metal Gear Solid, I waited about half an hour for the thing to load up, just because it was a double disc. But once launched, it played perfectly. It's truly very capable little system. No issues with PlayStation 1 games whatsoever. And if you like these classic PS1 games like Metal Gear Solid, the original, this little system will do those. And again, you don't have to go out and hunt down the ROMs or anything of that nature. So it's really great for that. A little bit of intro footage for you folks. And while playing this game, I didn't notice any input lag. I didn't notice any artifacts. It just plain worked. Other than the wait time for the download, just really a very capable little system.
The nuclear weapons disposal facility on Shadow Moses Island in Alaska's Fox Archipelago was attacked and captured by Next Generation Special Forces, being led by members of Foxhound. They're demanding that the government turn over the remains of Big Boss.
So if you're a PlayStation 1 fan
are not met within 24 hours,
and you want something to play them on an HDMI or your television,
you'll have two
this is
objectives.
definitely a good way to go.
First, you're to rescue DARPA Chief Donald Anderson and the president of Armstech, Kenneth Baker.
All right, let's skip to some
Both are being held
gameplay.
as hostages. Secondly, you're to investigate whether or not the terrorists...
So I'm a complete noob at this game, so I didn't necessarily know what I was doing. However, didn't seem to matter much. The controls were mapped as they should have been on the included DualShock controllers. And though I didn't know what I was doing, there was no frame rate drop, there was no input lag. It just seemed to work. And this is, of course, the intro mission. And it's neat to see it upscaled to 1080p. So, again, you can use it on any modern TV.
First, crouch down by pressing the crawl button, and then use the directional button to crawl in the direction you want.
Be careful, though. Crawling is slow, and you can't attack when you're doing it either.
You can stand up by pressing the crawl button again.
Yep, that's right, buddy. You just crawl through there. Get up and have a cigarette. And I'm just trying to figure out the controls here. But yeah, it's smooth, no issues whatsoever. Obviously, so PS1 games, absolutely can rock it with this. And that is a real advantage for me, because then I don't really have to worry about, finding those. And you might notice a little bit of a frame rate drop there. That's actually recording software, not the game.
You'll just have to wait for the elevator.
All right, so let's check out another system. Another of the systems that I really enjoyed having on here is original Game Boy games. And you think, boy, that's some pretty classic stuff there. But there's no real way to stream Game Boy games except through emulation. So here we're going to check out Pokemon, which I've never played, but I am told is where it's at for Game Boy games. And yeah, you get the grayscale, all nice and big on your TV, and of course there's no frame rate drop or any lag in this. Sound comes through crystal sharp. The image is crystal sharp. So if you grew up playing Game Boy, you know, now you have a way to get access to all the Game Boy stuff that you ever played, all on here, played on your TV. And again, no issues with the controls, and why would there be, right? Because it's pretty simple. B and A and D-pad, start and select. I know that some of the people that watch my streams have been asking me to do this, so it's just great to have that option. Also included in the system is Nintendo 64 games, and this is again from the top 50 list. We're going to load up Super Mario 64. Because these games are a little bit larger, they take a little bit longer to download. But once again, you get the box art, you get a screenshot, you get a little bit of history, and you can see what the downloading is like here. I did notice a little bit of frame drop with the Nintendo 64, and frankly, it's the only system on the Sync that I noticed any frame drop. But even so, it was readily playable. And yeah, it's just great to have this on your big screen TV, especially if you grew up with this stuff and you didn't have all the systems and all the games readily available for you to play. This is a great way to do it.
Hello.
So there's no real slowdown or anything of that nature, and the controls were again pretty good, but you'll notice the frames are, it's just not as silky smooth as you would get from an actual Nintendo 64. But you have all the Nintendo 64 games that you could ever want to play on here, which is the great part of it. And from what I understand, it is possible to tune this in such a way that you can get a little bit better performance, because it is upscaling it, and you have the option to not upscale things if you so choose. But again, perfectly playable. So a complete list of Nintendo 64 games, all ready to go. And that's if you don't mind a little bit of frame drop. But again, it's all tunable. So conclusions. The Volocian Sync is, in my opinion, one of the best retro gaming platforms out there. There's online support to anybody who purchases it directly by Richard, who will contact you via Facebook Messenger, and you can contact him, and he can remote log in and fix anything that needs to be done. It plays an incredible list of literally thousands of retro games from the Super Nintendo, Genesis, Sega Master System, Atari, even the Vectrex, plus all the way up to PlayStation 1 games, which I find very impressive. I didn't notice any major visual or audio artifacts. I didn't notice any input lag on anything I played. The only issue I had was with Nintendo 64 games, which I noticed a little bit of frame rate drop, but again, no input lag or things like that. My opinion is that if you're looking for a retro system and you don't want to deal with things like finding the ROM packs, downloading them, installing them, configuring them, customizing your control options, then this is definitely the way to go. It just plugs right into your big screen TV. No issue with capturing any of this stuff. It also comes with a huge list of other applications like your typical Netflix, YouTube, you name it, anything that you would find on Kodi. This has and can support it. Comes with a good set of high quality DualShock controllers, and having bought aftermarket USB DualShock controllers in the past, I can assure you that these are of a high quality and a good playability. It offers the full configuration and customization options that you would get with RetroArch or any of the other emulators. And it's a great looking system to boot. So I would say for the price point, roughly $110 Canadian, this is a really great product, and I will certainly be using the heck out of this, probably to stream a bunch of games that I don't have hard copies of. And again, just having the HDMI interface is a wonderful option for this. It means you don't have to worry about the low quality of a composite or a component connection. And it also comes with a decent IR remote, which allows you to configure the menus and things like that. So if you guys would like to know more, You can go to Volocian Studios, and that's where it's available for purchase. I highly recommend this unit. It's probably the best all-in-one retro gaming system I've seen to date, especially because you don't have to worry about the ROMs. That's the biggest selling feature for me. It just works and it goes. So I hope you enjoyed the review. Make sure you check out Volocian Studios. There's a link in the description below. I'm Roll SK from Bitter Old Goons Gaming, and thanks for watching.